Joining us to discuss the state of the energy market is former U.S. Secretary of Energy and Governor of Texas, Rick Perry. Secretary Perry, it's great to have you on. That beats the Trump era milestone of energy production in this country. Are you surprised?
Not necessarily. Hats off to the innovators and particularly the Texas oil and gas producers who are out there producing at record levels. You know, if you're from Oklahoma, North Dakota, those two states are down. Alaska's taken a real hit. You know, in the U.S., we've seen some really great development in the oil and gas industry, and particularly in Texas, as I said. So it doesn't necessarily surprise me. It could be substantially better if you had an administration that was supportive of fossil fuels. This current administration is not. And we've seen offshore leasing cut substantially, federal lands cut substantially. So we could even be higher if we had the support of the federal government. But, you know, even without that, the private sector kind of shrugs them off and goes on about their business because the demand's there. And I think that's the real key, understanding that the demand worldwide is there. You got the conflicts in Ukraine and in Israel that's also affecting the world. So a lot going on out there, but thank God that the American oil and gas industry is as resilient as it is. Here's the problem with the message that we're getting out of this administration long term for refineries and those types of infrastructure that need to be built out for the future growth. It may not be happening, and that's my big concern.
Right. Well, they're trying to straddle this idea of we need oil production at the moment, but in the future we need to look toward a more sustainable future, especially as the COP meeting kicks off. Secretary Perry, is there a way to do that? Is there a way to do both?
You know, we'll see. I just think it's short-sighted and kind of a fool's errand to not believe and understand that you're going to have fossil fuels way into the future. Are electrics fine, or the minerals, or the rare earth minerals and all of that that's going to be required? Have we really thought that through? Just how big a shovel do you have to have? My friend Dan Yergin just wrote a very interesting article about the big shovel and how much of these rare earth minerals you're going to have, and do we have it? I mean, what's the impact on the earth, so to speak? And those are really good questions that haven't been answered appropriately, in my opinion. So we'll see if we can split this baby and do it. But don't get confused. You're going to need fossil fuels for literally decades into the future to have the base load electricity. And you better get focused on nuclear power, small modular reactors in particular, to be able to fill that base load electric power need that's going to be out there in the future.
Yeah, that's something that gets a lot less attention, at least at the moment. I do wonder, though, given the North American production being at these record levels, and they postponed the OPEC meeting seemingly because they couldn't come around to an agreement on further production cuts. I mean, this is the way commodity markets are supposed to work, right? It's a commodity. If one is producing more, it's tough to sit it out and wait for higher prices. So it would seem like good news globally.
You would think that's the case. So, we'll leave OPEC to their business deciding what they need to do on theirs. Hopefully the U.S. will continue to produce at record levels, and we can fill any needs that the world has for the energy development that is going to be required for growth. I mean, if the world is growing, there's great need for this fossil fuel out there. So let's celebrate that instead of sticking our head in the sand and saying, oh, we got a existential threat here with the climate, and I expect we're going to hear a lot of that with COP. But reality is, if you want to have the lights on, if you want to see the world progress, I mean, the message of net zero to African citizens, the people who live on that continent, is sorry, you're not going to have progress in your life. You're just going to live the way you're living. And I think that's a very racist message, as well as one that's very negative.